Hello, and welcome to Making Sense of It. Our topic today is on truth or dare, truth or lies, and it's one of our well-known speakers, and really gets to the heart of it to help us come out either agreeing with or definitely considering to have other thoughts, because Sue Tomaszewski is an expert at helping you think something and then look at it the other direction so you can rethink it. And anyway, that is all going hand in hand with reality therapy. We've got to get real, not these illusions, as well as choice theory, and the fact that we have the choice of agreeing with or disagreeing with. Anyway, welcome everyone. It's good to see you and have you here. And welcome, Sue.
Good morning. All right, then. I have lots of information. As soon as I can bring it up. There we go. And all right. So, all things considered, what I'm actually calling this is we're looking at the ins and outs of lying and dishonesty. And the idea being, to what extent do we not always tell the truth? Do we not always present the truth? So we just kind of think about it, and I think I'll think about it and say, okay, am I being less than truthful because I put more makeup on today than I would usually when I'm seeing you guys because I'm doing the presentation? Am I being less than honest when, I wear my Spanx so I look a little thinner? Am I being less than honest when I know when somebody looks at me and says, oh, you look really good. Did you lose weight? No, I just have learned what clothes help me look skinnier, So is all of that, in a sense, is it being dishonest? Is it being less than honest? So basically, okay. There we go. So what we're going to do is take a look at kind of behaviors ranging from honesty through dishonesty to lying, and realizing from a choice theory vantage point that all behavior is purposeful, and that Dr. Glasser helped us talk about the fact that relationships are really key. So is that involved in this choosing to be dishonest rather than honest? And we've all been exposed to white lies, and probably any of us on today have told a white lie. I tend to call those liettes, like they're not big lies, they're just little lies, and they're what we call white lies. So if it's a white lie, what I'm actually finding when I researched it is those may be called prosocial lies, and that they are actually acceptable. And that some of the research has shown that kids who have learned to be prosocial liars actually are favored, as opposed to the kids who are always truthful and they're presenting information that people don't want to hear. So really a really interesting place there. So we're going to look at prosocial lies versus antisocial lies. And then what about exaggerations? And that, but as a society, we really do place value on the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. And we're going to take a look using reality therapy to help us determine where, in a sense, falsehoods may fit in. So you may appreciate this from dictionary.com. Here's just some definitions. Interesting that the first writings were somewhere between 1175 and 1225. And it's lies, false statements, untruthfulness. It's deliberately being untruthful, deceitful, false. Other words that we use: falsehood, falsity, mendacity, prevarication. I don't know that one. Deceptive, misleading, mendacious, fallacious, sham, counterfeit. And the opposites for lying are truth, veracity, true, candid, actual, correct, accurate, trustworthy. So trust gets involved here as well. Now, what I want to share with you is one of the first times where I really looked at, as a child, looking at the fact that are we telling the truth. My father owned Roselle Furniture, and I really considered him to be the premier salesman. So here's my dad and me when I was a kid.
Oh.
Here's my dad at my wedding. And notice it's really interesting because, of course, in the first photo, my dad is bald. In the second photo, my dad is not. Well, in the second photo, my dad had chosen to wear toupees. So was he lying at that point because he was being somebody who he wasn't? He wasn't. But then later, he then decided he was a cowboy and, was being Ben Cartwright. So decided, all right, he would dress this way. And he went back to being both. Well, what's really interesting when I think about my dad and looking at dishonesty in a sense, I would be in the store like any number of times. And I would hear my father saying things to customers, and I'm thinking, no, we don't have that at home. No, my mother never said that I know of. Like, is there like stuff there that I just never noticed? Is my father lying? Like, what's happening here? And then it's like, well, that's part of sales. So it's an exaggeration. It's not really lying. It's a white lie. But are you truthful or aren't you? Huh. Right? So that was kind of an exposure. On the other hand, so I saw this in the comics, and she says, welcome, enjoy shopping at Wilnots. Hello, welcome to Wilnots. And she's all feisty and have a nice day. Oh, hello. Oh, you're welcome. Hi there. How are you? And now, thank you. Enjoy your day. All right, fine. And now one of the customers is also going into a restaurant and sees her in the restaurant. Huh, was that just a big show? Is that not who you really are? Is it a lie? Is it a falsehood? Are you this or are you that? Well, so when we then consider lying, Mark Twain had what to say. When in doubt, tell the truth. It will confound your enemies and astound your friends. And then I like this, and I can't verify who these people are, but I like the definition stuff from the Paul Ekman group. They're saying that there's concealment is part of lying, that it's withholding information, that's a primary way to lie. On the other hand, there's falsification, that you're actually presenting false information. But they also say often liars use a combination of both to pull off the deceit. So now let's just take a look at from another untruth. We may have heard something like this. Well, sorry, I just can't today. My sister's friend's mother's grandpa's brother's grandson's uncle's fish died. And yes, it was very tragic. But Carl Sagan told us one of the saddest lessons of history is this: if we've been bamboozled long enough, I love the bamboozled word, we tend to reject any evidence of the bamboozle. We're no longer interested in finding out the truth. The bamboozle has captured us. It's simply too painful to acknowledge, even to ourselves, that we've been taken. Once you give a charlatan power over you, you almost never get it back. So I really want to have faith. I really want to believe you, but I've been bamboozled. So in researching it a little further, there's Untruths Aren't Always Lies is an article by Ronald Pies, professor of psychiatry at Tufts University, and it was published in The Conversation, which, by the way, when I looked this up, there's this journal, newspaper, newsletter, The Conversation, has some really interesting things. Again, I haven't given them much validation. I don't know, but they have interesting things. Anyway, so what he says to us is, first, we need to make a distinction often emphasized by ethicists and philosophers, that between lie and a falsehood, thus someone who deliberately misrepresents what he or she knows to be true is lying, typically to secure some personal advantage. In contrast, someone who voices a mistaken claim without any intent to deceive is not lying. That person may simply be unaware of the facts or may refuse to believe the best available evidence. They're not lying. They're stating a falsehood. Some people who voice falsehoods appear incapable of distinguishing real from unreal or truth from fiction, yet are sincerely convinced their worldview is absolutely correct. So as we look at it further, we're going to look at, well, what are some other words? Are they exaggerations? Are we stretching the truth? And they just seem to be all around. So whether it's lies, lying, fallacious, spam, deceit, misleading, falsify, liettes, pretense, untruths, deceptions, spam, sham, falsehoods, scams. And then as we listen to the news at all, well, what about the big lie? Well, what about Hunter Biden and his laptop? Well, what about George Santos? Well, what about climate change? Well, is this real or is it AI? What are we looking at? What are we listening to? What do we believe? What do we not believe? What is truth? And is there truth? So then I thought about it and said, well, okay, we've all been looking at scams, and that scams very definitely, Wikipedia says that scams are a confidence game or other fraudulent scheme, especially for making a quick profit, a swindle. It's to cheat or defraud with a scam. What does scam mean? A scam is a deceptive scheme or trick used to cheat someone out of something, especially money. Scam is also a verb, meaning to cheat someone in some way. Example, banks will never call you asking for your credit card number or social security number over the phone. Never. If someone calls and asks for that information, most likely it's a scam. A scam is a trick to get something out of you, usually money. It's called a swindle, a confidence game, which refers to the fact that the scammer has to gain your confidence before scamming you. Confidence is also the basis of con in con artist, which is a synonym for scammer or scam artist. Scams can be big or small, but the common element is that the person being scammed never gets what they're promised. Like, of course, we've all seen the emails from the inheritance from the prince. Unlikely it's a really good scam in which they'll send you a bit of money. That I've never seen. Send you a bit of money to make you think the whole thing is legit. Hint, it's never legit. Or watch on your bank accounts, watch on your credit cards when $1 goes through. When it's $1 go through, it's usually a scammer checking to see if they have things right, because dollars don't usually get checked. So is scamming about money? Probably. Is it about relationships? Well, is it powering over? One would think so if we talk about it in choice theory language. Then there's also spams. So spams seem to be a different version of a scam. So spam emails, and sometimes we're seeing spams in texts. They're unsolicited, unwanted junk email or text sent out in bulk to an indiscriminate recipient list. Typically, spam is sent for commercial purposes. Malicious emails or texts are one way for hackers to try to get access to your private information. If you receive a spam email, you should delete it immediately. Do not open it. Do not open any attachments. Do not click on any links. It only takes one wrong click and hackers can gain access to your entire computer. Is this lying? Yeah, and cheating. And so what are all the different ways? So some of you have seen this. I just got this one the other day from the Geek Squad. It looks so legitimate, even to the point that they're saying, you know, here's your subscription. I didn't subscribe to this. Who are you people? But that unless you turn down the subscription no later than 24 hours before the end of the subscription period, it will automatically renew every year. What subscription period? I never subscribed. But then they say you can call to cancel. Don't call, don't click, don't do anything. It's a scam, which is a spam. Now, interesting though, so here's another one. And I don't know if any of you have gotten this. We know Bob Wobbleding. Well, if you know Bob Wobbleding, you know, oh, wait, go back. If you know Bob Wobbleding, he wouldn't be sending this, but doesn't it look like official? It's 2 photos to you from Robert Wobbleding. Oh, I was checking my photos, says Bob, and thinking you may remember these girls. Oh, please, dear God, don't click. Do not click. Do not click. Now, every now and again, I've thought, well, maybe I should write to Bob and say, I think you've been hacked. I think somebody's got your email. I think, you know, it's like, we know Bob wouldn't do this. Right? But every now and again, I know I've gotten an email from somebody that'll say, you may find this really interesting. And I know the person, and I know the person well. And it's like, is this you? And they've said yes. It's like, well, okay. But otherwise. Now, of course, when we're talking about lying and scamming and shamming and spamming, we can't help but think about Kellyanne Conway and alternative facts. That just for a joke. But Kellyanne Conway, if you remember, she used the phrase as the counselor to the president on Meet the Press in 2017. And she was defending White House Press Secretary Sean Spicer's false statement about the attendance numbers, yada, da, da, da. All right. When pressed during the interview, so here's Chuck Todd, who was pressing and it was interesting when Alice came to visit, we were watching Meet the Press, and Alice said, Chuck Todd just keeps interrupting. I went, because Chuck Todd is like going for the truth, and he's going to help them consider answering truthfully quickly. And here he was just trying to nail Kellyanne Conway. So Conway stated that Spicer was giving alternative facts, and Todd responded, look, alternative facts are not facts, they're falsehoods. Conway later defended her choice of words, defining alternative facts as additional facts, alternative information. Well, Conway later defended her remarks in an interview in March 2017. 2 + 2 is 4. 3 + 1 is 4. Partly cloudy, partly sunny, glass half full, glass half empty. Those are all alternative facts. We would probably look at that and say, those are different perceived worlds, perhaps. And now in a radio interview with Mark Simone that was described by Salon, which is another publication in February 2018, she claimed that professional fact checkers tend to be political liberals and are selecting what they think they should be fact checked. Americans are their own fact checkers. People know they have their own facts and figures in terms of meaning which facts and figures are important to them. But are they true? So we have more. Mark Twain said, the truth is no defense against a fool determined to believe a lie. George Bernard Shaw said, beware of false knowledge. It is more dangerous than ignorance. And then I'm not sure where this one came from, but if you say you're going to do something, so in a different version, if you say you're going to do something, then do it. Otherwise, keep your lies to yourself. Another way of looking at it then is, keep my word is such a strange expression. At first glance, it just means be true to what you agreed on. But it could also mean hold your words back, keep them in, let your actions speak instead. So another way of looking at it in a continuum of behaviors, there seems to be telling the truth. There seems to be hiding or leaving something out. Perhaps telling a white lie, a fib, a layette. Perhaps telling that prosocial lie. Perhaps telling an antisocial lie. Perhaps thinking, well, really, it is about my needs. It's lying to get what I want, what I need, possibly hurting others in the process. And then, perhaps it is a purposeful lie to actually, the intent is, and if we believe that all behaviors are purposeful, maybe it is about hurting others. And so now our question that Dr. Glasser gave us is, which of these behaviors will bring us closer together or further apart? And what are the conditions? And which of these behaviors will help me get what I want and will help me meet my needs? Under which conditions? So as we start looking at it from the chart, our wonderful chart, and if we're considering choice theory when deciding about truth or lies, if we take a look at it and we're saying, well, what's going on in the filtering system? So what's going on? How does the information come in? Does any of that information, does it actually get into our knowledge filter? Does it seem familiar to us? Do we have a thought about it? Do we know what it is? Can we define it? Is it valued? When this person talks, do I value what this person says? What's going on in the filtering systems? And what might be the perceived world? What might be the perceived world picture? I have to move this. Okay. What might be the person's perceived world when lying is chosen behavior? What might be in a person's quality world when a person chooses to lie? So are we looking at it and saying, in my perceived world, are we thinking, if I say this, it might hurt somebody's feelings. So maybe I'll just leave that out. So when somebody says, so how are you? Your perceived world says, maybe to be closer, I'm not going to tell them how I really am. On the other hand, you know what? I know you really care about me, so I want to share the fact that I'm in pain. Is that what this is about? In the quality world, this is who I am and what I stand for. Telling the truth is important to me. On the other hand, is really not sharing everything just as important? And what might be the quality world of a person who lies, right? And then how might lying help someone to meet their needs? If lying, does that help me get, does it help me belong? The fake it till you make it. Does it help me look smart, even though I really don't know what I'm talking about? Does it give me more liberty? Is it just fun that I can put one over on people? And what might be the total behavior of someone choosing to lie? What's the emotional component of this? What's the physiological? Like, very often, why do we have lie detectors? Because when people lie, there's actually changes that are going on in their bloodstream. When we lie, there's actually changes going on in our brains. There's also different chemicals that are, so physiologically, there's something happening in total behavior. Emotionally, there's something happening. When we look at it, then what are we thinking? Can I get away with this? Can I? Would this be better for me? Would this be worse? Will this help the relationship? Won't it? And then what's the actual action? The whole truth? Nothing but the truth? So here's then, as we get a little more serious about it, this article is called White Lies Make Social Networks Stronger, but Selfish Lies Tear Them Apart. And this is another one that comes out of that publication called The Conversation in 2014. And they say lying is a bad thing. This is what mentors, parents, and teachers tell us, but there's no society without lies. Lying is a theoretical physicist thought about this blatant discrepancy and set out to stimulate the effects of lying in virtual human population. Their results, published in the Proceedings of Royal Society B, show that lying is essentially for the growth of a cohesive social network. The key to understanding the discrepancy is realizing that all lies are not equal. White lies or fibs are generally accepted. Their intention is to protect, benefit, or help others, like reassuring a child on their efforts to play violin to motivate future improvement. But some lies are selfish, when protecting oneself at the expense of another person, or even lying to hurt someone else intentionally. They're condemned in most societies. In social psychology, this behavior is characterized as antisocial lying, while fibs are referred to as prosocial, as they help to keep relations in good condition. From the University of Rochester, another article. This one is The Truth About Lying, from the University of Rochester Medical School. The problem arises when people rationalize that non-white lies are acceptable and necessary. Getting caught in a lie often destroys relationships. Lying does have consequences. When someone finds out you have lied, it affects how that person deals with you forever. If your spouse lies, you may be able to work it out in therapy, but an employer is not likely to forgive you. Even if you convince yourself a lie is okay, it still violates the dictates of conscience. You're living a lie and waiting for the other shoe to drop. This is psychologically unhealthy. No one is saying, though, you should tell your anxious mother that you have 102 fever, or your coworker that you think her clothes are inappropriate. There are many considerations that come into play when deciding whether honesty is the best policy. So here's some self-evaluation questions about lying. Comes from the same article. So I want you to think about it from the RT question. So what is it that I want? What am I doing to get what I want? How well is it working? Do I want to make another plan? Also, the 6 relationship questions. Who am I? What do I stand for? What do I expect from others? What don't I expect from them? What can I expect from me? What can they expect from me? And what can they not expect? So would anyone be harmed if I withhold a bit of the truth? Can someone change and grow from my honest feedback, or am I being unnecessarily blunt by giving an honest opinion that is hurtful? How would it feel if someone withheld the truth from me under the same circumstances? Is avoiding the truth in this situation an act of cowardice or of compassion? If you often find yourself being deceptive with family and friends to sidestep troubling issues, you may need to strengthen your interpersonal skills. The main reason people lie is low self-esteem. I'm not sure that's completely true, but this is what these folks think. And they want to impress, please, and tell someone that they think they want to hear. So from the Greater Good magazine, and this is from Jeremy Adam Smith, and it's What's Good About Lying. New research reveals how we learn to lie for the benefit of other people. So isn't this interesting? Kids learn to lie by about the age of 3. By age 5, almost all children can and will lie to avoid punishment or chores. And a minority will sporadically tell prosocial lies. 7 to 11, they begin to reliably lie to protect other people or to make them feel better. And they'll start to consider prosocial lies to be justified. They're not just telling white lies to please adults. The research to date suggests that they are motivated by strong feelings of empathy and compassion. In other words, says Warnick, the author, it's a feeling of empathic connection that drives children to tell white lies. In fact, children are trying to resolve 2 conflicting norms, honesty versus kindness. And by about age 7, his studies suggest they start consistently coming down on the side of kindness. So is love and belonging really affecting us here? Are relationships affecting us here? And this reflects increasingly sophisticated moral and emotional reasoning. When is it right to prioritize another person's feelings over truth? Say if someone cooks something for you and it just doesn't taste good. Well, if they're applying for cooking school somewhere, the prosocial thing is to be honest so that they can improve. But if they just cooked it on their own just for you, then perhaps it's better to lie and say, oh, it tastes good. It's a good sign developmentally when kids show the ability to make that kind of calculation. Indeed, there's a great deal of evidence that we tend to see prosocial lies as the more moral choice. So another one, and so now we can all think about Pinocchio and the art of lying. And remember, so we think truth is the right thing to do. When Geppetto built Pinocchio, he was teaching him that truth was what we wanted. So every time you were going to lie, I built it so your nose was going to grow. So here's another, I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce this guy's name, but he published in the Scientific American, The Art of Lying. Lying has gotten a bad rap, he says. In fact, it's among the most sophisticated and demanding accomplishments of the human mind. Children have to learn how to lie. People with certain types of frontal lobe injuries may not be able to. Current thinking about the psychological processes involved in deception holds that people typically tell the truth more easily than they tell a lie, and that lying requires far more cognitive resources. Right, doesn't that just play it out? First, we must become, here's how this whole situation works. First, we must become aware of the truth. Then we have to invent a plausible scenario that is consistent and does not contradict the observable facts. At the same time, we need to suppress the truth so that we do not spill the beans. That is, we must engage in response inhibition. What's more, we must be able to assess accurately the reactions of the listener so that if necessary, we can deftly produce adaptations to the original storyline. And there is the ethical dimension, whereby we have to make a conscious decision to transgress a social norm. All this deciding and self-control implies that lying is managed by the prefrontal cortex, the region at the front of the brain responsible for executive control, which includes such processes as planning and regulating emotions and behavior. So those who are really, really smart can lie really, really well. So August 2018, Why Liars Lie, and this comes from What Science Tells Us About Deception. Scientists don't really know what prevents all of us from lying all the time. Some believe truth-telling is a social norm that we just internalize, or a result of conflict in our brains between the things we want and the positive vision of ourselves we strive to maintain. But the curious thing about this preventive mechanism is that it comes from within. From within. Choice theory holds true. We are our own judge, self-evaluation, about our own honesty. And that internal judge is what differentiates psychopaths and non-psychopaths. A 2016 study in Nature Neuroscience, they showed how dishonesty alters people's brains, making it easier to tell lies in the future. When people uttered a falsehood, the scientists noticed a burst of activity in the amygdala. The amygdala is a crucial part of the brain that produces fear, anxiety, and emotional responses, including that sinking, guilty feeling you get when you lie, which also produces neurotransmitters, which are chemicals that are produced in the brain. So, continuing that, but when scientists had their subjects play a game, so here comes the fun part, in which they won money by deceiving their partner, they noticed the negative signals from the amygdala began to decrease. Not only that, but when people faced no consequences for the dishonesty, their falsehoods tended to get even more sensational. Powering over is still power. If you give people multiple opportunities to lie for their own benefit, a cognitive neuroscientist at University College in London who led the research said they start with little lies and they get bigger and bigger over time. Mm-hmm. So from a choice theory perspective, where does all this fit in the axioms? So as we take a look at lying and remembering that the only person whose behavior we can control is our own, remembering all we can give or get from each other's information and how we deal that information is ours or their choice, that all long-lasting psychological problems are relationship problems, that the problem relationship is always part of our present lives, that what happened in the past that was painful is a great deal to do with what we are today, but revisiting this painful past can contribute little or nothing to what we do now, improve an important present relationship. We're driven by those 5 genetic needs. We can satisfy these needs only by satisfying a picture or pictures in our quality world. Will lying help us to do that? All we can do from birth to death is behave. All behavior is total behavior and our 4 inseparable components. And all total behavior is designated by verbs. And all total behavior is chosen, but we have direct control over only the acting and the thinking. So does lying fit in there? In at least 8 of the 10. So my question to you is then, well, do you have any thoughts? Anything to do about this? Anyone to share it with? And I'll take a deep breath and go, there you go.
Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. Very, very informative. And looking at all sides possibly, I think you lost some sleep because I know you're a very busy lady otherwise into to finding out both sides on this. And I was looking there that you bring it together with the Glasser theory and the Glasser therapy. And, you know, the devil you know versus the devil you don't know kind of made me think of, are those actually facts or are they theories that are being tried out? And so I guess deep down inside, they really are. I know there's been times that to another person would ask me a question and my answer to them would be, well, I'd rather not say because I'm afraid it would offend you. And I find it very interesting that is all, I don't think anyone has ever said, okay, well, I'll just keep it to myself. Usually, no, I won't.
Right,
no,
right. I'll be fine. You can tell me.
I'll be fine. You can tell me. And there was someone just recently that showed me something on their phone, and I had no idea where that came from. Okay. But they was wanting me to read what was there, and I did. And the only comment I made to them was, do you believe this? Because I didn't.
Yeah.
You know, I saw a lot of scams and spams and so forth in that. And just their response to that was a little bit of, you know,
right.
But yeah. So, because I'm not so, you know, I don't believe it, you know, at least not at that particular point. So I've seen some things on advertisements on TV about Alzheimer's, and that some people who have been loving previously, once Alzheimer's comes in, become quite critical and condemning and cursing and so forth. And as we was going through this was just me, okay? I was wondering, in those situations? Is it someone that has not known how to speak their truth?
Oh, interesting. And now without the filters there, now they are. Yeah.
Right, right. Just a thought, you know. But this has been very, very deep and wonderful. And thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
So we will stop the recording and thank you for being here. And those that aren't here live will be opening for conversation. So many blessings and good mental health.